everybody, JC here with another T&I toy review, and today we're going to take a look at the new Teen Titans DC Collectibles New 52 Superboy figure. This figure comes packaged in your standard window type box packaging. You've got the Teen Titans logo up at the top, the figure clearly displayed in the window box packaging. You've got the name of the figure down below. The coloring on this packaging is white and red, which is the same colors used on all the figures in this Teen Titans wave. And then on the one side we have the darkened in color of the character, like a standard with the DC collectible packaging. And then on the other side we have a picture of the actual figure, and it tells us this figure was sculpted by James Shoop. Then finally on the back we have a thumbnail image of the Superboy character, a little brief bio, and then all three pictures of all three figures in this initial Teen Titans wave, which includes Wonder Girl, Superboy, and Kid Flash. And we'll be looking at all three of these figures over the course of this week. All three of these figures hit comic and specialty shops this week. Okay, so let's get the figure open and take a look at what's inside. Okay, so here's a look at the figure outside of the packaging. Now, as I mentioned before, this figure is based on his New 52 appearance. He's wearing basically an all-black costume with red kind of striping highlights throughout, and the red Superman shield on his chest. It's a very flat black on most of the costume, and then they've used a red metallic paint for the red. Now, in the comics, the red almost looks like kind of like energy flow, lighted up effect, a very kind of like Tron look to it, I think. And I think the metallic paint they use picks that up pretty good, kind of simulates that red light effect in certain lighting. So I like that, and it looks good on the black. Now, one thing I do want to point out with the paint is there are some parts on my figure, at least, where it looks like got a little sloppy with the paint. You can see kind of like the black bleeding into the red. So just something you want to be wary of, and possibly look your figure over good before you actually purchase it. Make sure there aren't like a lot of paint blemishes on it or anything. I think the head sculpt came out pretty good. The hair is sculpted in a wavy kind of look. It almost covers up one of his eyes, which is pretty true to what you see in the comic books. So I like that. Now it looks like they've tried to do a paint wash on the hair, where they've used a little bit shinier black in certain portions of the hair, which doesn't look bad overall. But I will say in lighting, like I used to shoot this video, the light kind of glistens off those shinier paint portions of the hair, which can look kind of funny at times. But again, that's really just with, when you have direct light on the hair. And I don't know how well that picks up on the camera or not, but just something I wanted to point out. Otherwise, though, I really like the face sculpt and think it looks pretty true to the character. Otherwise, the figure seems to be pretty good. He stands at just a little bit over 6.5 inches tall, so he is shorter than the New 52 Superman figure, which I think is accurate. Superboy should not be as tall as Superman, so I think that's pretty good. The figure is sculpted with one open hand and one closed-fisted hand. Now he doesn't come with any accessories, so he can't, he doesn't have anything to hold in that one open hand, but they did give him an open hand on this particular figure. Articulation-wise, the articulation on this figure is not as good as in more recent figures that we've seen from DC Collectibles, like the Crime Syndicate or the Batman Arkham Origins figures. However, it is better than what we've seen with like the early New 52 figures and such. It's just not quite as good as what we've seen with the more recent figures. But let's just go over the articulation real quick. He can look left and right fine, and he can look up some, and he can look down. He can kind of tilt his head, so he's got pretty good movement in the head. Arms are attached with your standard ball hinged joints at the shoulder, so he's got good rotation there. And he can stick his arm out nice. He's got a bicep swivel. He's got single joints at the elbow, but he can bend his elbows pretty good. And then he has a wrist swivel kind of, it's not quite at the wrist, it's actually a little bit farther down, but he does have a swivel there, but no hinges on the wrist. There is no midsection joint on this figure, so no ab crunch or swivel at the waist or anything. The legs are ball hinge joints. He can do the splits about that much, and then he can do his leg forward pretty good, and he can do his leg kind of out and back like with most of the figures. No thigh swivel. He has a single joint knee, so he can bend his knee pretty good. And he does have an ankle swivel, again though it's kind of high up off the ankle, but he does have a swivel there. And then he has hinges on the foot. There's no pivot, but he does have the up and down movement on the foot. And then again he's got the swivel, which I like. And then he's got two peg holes on the bottom of his feet. Okay, so that's my review. Overall, I think this is a pretty good figure. If you like the new 52 look for Superboy, then I think you'll definitely want to pick this one up. To me, again, like I said, he has a very kind of Tron vibe to me, which I think looks pretty good. Definitely much more different than the standard kind of Superboy, Superman costume that we've traditionally seen with this character. And I do like, again, how the metallic red paints look on the black of this figure. Now, my only real complaint with this figure is a little bit of the sloppiness with the line work where the red meets the black in certain areas of the figure. And again, it may just be with my figure. I didn't look at all the figures at my comic book shop to see, you know, if that's a problem with all of them or just, you know, with mine. And it's not, again, it's not like horrid bad, it's just, but if you do look at it closely, you do kind of notice a little bit of sloppiness there. The only other thing is that, you know, you might not be happy that it doesn't have quite as much articulation as like the Crime Syndicate figures, but I do think it has pretty good articulation overall, and ab crunch might have been nice to give him in a little bit better fighting and flight poses, but I do like that he has like the ankle joints, and the ball joints on the legs and stuff. So again, not quite as good as the Crime Syndicate figures, but certainly much better than what we saw with the early New 52 DC collectible figures. So that's my review. I hope you enjoy it, and as I mentioned before, we will be looking at the other two figures from this Teen Titan wave in the next couple days, so check back for those, and until next time, I'll check you later.